Hello, my name is Mark Deary and I'm back again today for another, video about filmmaking. I don't know if I'd call these vlogs yet. Video number 8 today, where I said I was going to make 100 videos in 100 days, talking about everything related to being a filmmaker for the last 20 years. I made my first indie feature 20 years ago, and I'm reflecting on it now as I move towards the end of the 100 days, where I'm going to make a documentary called Confessions of a Failed Filmmaker. So yeah, starting to get a bit of progress on the documentary is very fun. I've never edited a feature documentary before. I've done a lot of corporate videos, but yeah, I guess they're kind of different, maybe mini docs at most, but whereas this will be a proper documentary, I'm hoping. So today, I thought it would be interesting to talk about money. So sitting under this like money tree. No, I don't know what this is. It's kind of a weird, like they obviously cut the tree down and the tree started growing again, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, today I thought it'd be interesting to talk about money and how it relates to filmmaking, independent filmmaking, video making in general. Now that I'm entering the YouTube sphere, or I guess content making sphere, I've never really appreciated or talked about content that much. I'm up to my 8th video now, so there's the 8th video of content producing I've done. But yeah, I mean, I guess for the last couple of years, I've consumed a bit of content on YouTube, so that's another thing we can add to our list of things to talk about today as far as making money. So it's funny because I guess it's one of those topics, talking about money. Like usually you just focus on creativity, and I thought if I talk about this early on, then I can move on to talking about things like editing and lighting and production and working with actors and all those other fun sorts of things. And I don't know, maybe I'll end up just talking about life advice because that's what some of these videos have already started turning into. Do you want unsolicited advice from me? I don't know. We'll learn as we go. But yeah, talking about money, there's I guess a few different tiers or phases that I talk about, or that I can talk about. Because I mean, I'm certainly not rich, and I'm really not even particularly well off. But I feel lucky in that I've kind of gotten to do what I wanted to do. Like, not only did I get to make 3 finished feature films, I was talking about how I made 5 feature films and 3 of them got finished, and an hour-long web series, and hundreds and hundreds of corporate videos and TV commercials in my life. Like, so I've gotten to work in video production, which has been great. Not a Hollywood film, and we're not talking crazy big budgets. We're not talking stars, just independent. But I didn't have to make any sacrifices for that. I got to get married, in my late 20s or mid. Well, I was 26 when I got married, and I got to have kids. I had my first kid when I was 29, and I'm 43 now. I have 3 kids, so I got to have kids. Got to make movies, and so I guess while I'm not rich and I don't live in a multi-million-dollar house, or you know live it up and go on holidays to Europe every year or anything like that, I feel like I've gotten by over the years. And this is not really advice on how you can make money. I'm just going to talk about money as a filmmaker. So I've talked about this in my earlier video, so I won't go into it. But yeah, before my creative journey started with music. Like in high school, I was in bands, and I was in rock band when I left year 12, and we played music and stuff. And I left that to do university because I kind of just didn't like the touring. And then I focused on game development for a while. I worked at a game company in England for a little bit. I got an internship there, and then came back here. And while I was back here was when I wrapped up my uni degree and started doing filmmaking. I made my first indie feature, kind of no budget, off the back of watching Robert Rodriguez. And at that time, I just had a casual job. I worked in a cinema. I, sold tickets at the ticket booth and ripped tickets at when people go into the cinemas, like a classic, like usher and ticket seller, and worked in the candy bar sometimes. I had that job for a few years. So like that job paid whatever the minimum award wage was at that time, probably about 20 bucks an hour, maybe not even 18 bucks an hour, something like that. And, I still had to live. I was in my early 20s, so I still had to be able to go out and hang out with friends and do other things. But once we started making movies, we did kind of start sacrificing a lot of that stuff, to cover film budgets, to cover food on set, and to cover travel to locations and stuff. So we did, when I say we, I mean my wife, Candice, who was my girlfriend at the time. We were producing the film together, our first film. And yeah, I mean, so the sacrifices started early. She worked at, there's a service in Australia, so if you're from Australia, you'll know this, but overseas you might not, called Kids Helpline. And so she was working there. So she was earning more money than me. That was her kind of uni job while she was at uni. We both finished uni the same year as each other in 2004. And so we kind of finished uni and then went and made our first feature. And we just did it, it completely bootstrapped. Like we didn't use, it was a teen film, so we went back to the town we grew up in, Maryborough. The movie is called Maryborough ... And it was basically about being a teenager in the town we grew up in, and we were grieving our youth, I guess, I realise now. And so, yeah, so we put an ad in the paper because people still bought the newspaper back then, and some kids came and auditioned, and we told them, like, you're not going to get paid for this, but we're making a movie and you'll get to be in a finished movie. And I mean, I don't think we even knew what we were doing really. So we did our best, and we were passionate. We thought, and we'll make this movie. We'll get it in, like, the Brisbane International Film Festival, which is our capital city. But we'll get it in some film festival, and then we'll be rich. And it didn't really work out that way. So we made it. We finished it. But we didn't know what we didn't know. We'd never made anything. Like, I'd worked on some stuff, but nothing really. At that point, I really, like, barely knew how to white balance a camera. I barely knew how to set my exposure. Like, made a lot of mistakes while we were filming because I didn't know what I was doing. It was absolutely as amateur as you can get. But we were telling a story. And I'm still really proud of that movie. We fluked a lot of things. And yeah, a lot of stuff worked out on it. Did it make us any money? Well, once we got it done, I said this in another video, we premiered it very quickly. We shot it in like the January, and then we did post-production in a couple of months, and we had already set a date for the premiere at the cinema that I'd worked in, but it was kind of, we'd reserved it and everything, and we filled the cinema with, like, I think it was 250 people, or maybe it was 500 people. It was a big cinema, it was a lot of people. I can't remember how many people were there, but we filled the biggest cinema at the cinema where I worked, so maybe, I can't remember the seats, but let's just say 250, because that sounds more reasonable. But we filled the cinema, and we got press and everything for that screening. I had a mate who worked on a local radio station, Triple Z in Brisbane, and he talked about it, and off the back of that, because that was in like February after we'd finished production, we were doing post-production in Brisbane, and at the radio station, he'd also interviewed like another band, and they heard about it and said, oh, you want to use our music on the soundtrack? So we got some of their music on the soundtrack, and another band rang in and we used their music on the soundtrack, and so, it was good being on the radio, and it also meant that a lot of people came to the premiere. Also, the premiere was very embarrassing, but we didn't charge money for the premiere. I had access to the cinema, so I just wanted it to be full, so people just came for free. And it, it was full. I think there was even some people sitting in the aisles, but they came and said, oh, people can't sit in the aisles, so some people didn't get to go. Anyway, so we didn't make money off that, but we didn't want to make money. We just wanted to show. And I literally was like rendering it 20 minutes before we played it. Like, we played it off the mini DV tape. We didn't even have it exported, and there was issues in it. Story for another day. So we didn't make money off that. Then we went back and we fixed, a few things and polished it up and did some ADR and stuff. And we relaunched it again in the November of 2005. And at that time, we were like, oh, we can make DVDs and sell this on DVD. But we were like, this is crap. And we'd already gone into production, shot another movie over 6 days, which was better, and edited that. And so we were kind of like, we'll never do anything with that first film. It was the one we were learning on. We'll never do anything. So we made some DVDs. We gave DVDs to the cast and crew. So we're like, here you go. We told you we would give you a finished film. Here's the finished film on DVD. There you go. And the film was never released, and I've never put any clips of it up publicly. I think I've maybe shown 3 other people who weren't in it ever since then. So, it's not great. It's like you would expect. A bad, 2005, so Y2K aesthetic feature film that goes for 96 minutes, should have gone for 76 minutes, about teens. And sorry, I meant to be talking about money. So a couple of DVDs sold. I think like Candice's grandma sold some to her friends for like $5 each. So we might have made $15. I still have the cash. Maybe it's $20. A few $5 notes of people who bought DVDs, a few old people. And so, yeah, so we made $20, let's say that. And I think our budget was about $1,500 in like tape stock, because we used like 15 or 16 or 13, I can't remember, like mini DV tapes, and they were like $30 each. And food and transport. So, yeah, I think it was about just over $1,000, $1,500 maybe. And we got all the gear for free. So it still cost us $1,500. We made, let's say, $20. So it cost us $1,480. And a lot of time, obviously, because we weren't working in our jobs. So there was also the opportunity cost. We weren't working in our jobs, so we lost, I don't know, probably a couple $1,000 while making it. And it was average, but, we had the bug. So we made our second film, which, funnily enough, we never finished. But at that point, we kind of had to do something with our lives, because we'd finished undergrad. We'd had all of 2005 off, basically. Like, working part-time jobs, but not working real jobs. Now that we were graduates of uni, we needed to get real jobs. So Candice applied for a job in Melbourne as a social worker. She'd studied social work at uni and got the job in Melbourne. And so we moved to Melbourne, and that's when I enrolled in my master's degree in film, because I didn't want to get a real job yet. Certainly not in game development or, multimedia, web design and stuff. And who knows what I would have done if I'd gone down that track. A friend who I graduated with, one of my best friends, his brother, he just bought a really fancy pants house, and he worked at Facebook for a while, graduated in the same course as me, undergraduate course as me. So that's the pathway I could have gone on if I'd gone to games or web stuff. But I don't have a multi-million-dollar house, and I'm not sad about it, because I have movies that I've made. Okay, so let's keep going. So second film, never finished, didn't make any money. Third film, never finished. Oh no, I talk about 5, yeah. It was like got kind of cut off in production. So I shouldn't even say 5, I should say 4. But it was written and we went into production and then it fell apart because it was raining. That's the story for another day. Next film was my master's film, and it went for an hour and 48 minutes, which is insane. It should have gone for 60 minutes. And again, we thought this will be the one that gets in film festival. At this point, things were starting to click for me. I was getting better compositions and better camera work, and the story was a bit more interesting. The stakes were still very low. It was about a guy who was trying to find his TV because it had gone missing, and he wanted to screen a game in his house. So it was still very low stakes. We were still learning. I tried to put that in Melbourne Underground Film Festival, but we never even heard back from them. So I think we just got it in the day it was due, and they didn't even watch it, which has always disappointed me. I never entered that festival again because I got no correspondence, even though I paid like $60 or something back in 2007 to put the film in it. So yeah, I kind of, that was a turn off that I never got any reply. Because every other film festival, I've entered maybe, I don't know, 40 other film festivals since then, and every single one has always given me a reply, but Melbourne Underground Film Festival never did, which was very disappointing. I had to physically mail in a DVD, you know. But as I said, I'm pretty sure we sent it in, like it closed a day or two later. So maybe they got it, maybe they received it after, even though it was postmarked to be in. Maybe they already, I'm not blaming them. They're probably a fine festival. Anyway, so, getting in that festival would have been our gateway to more festivals, but we never got in it, so we didn't do anything with it. And at that point, I had a job in a law firm, which was paying me really good money, but making me miserable. So I quit that job. And they doubled my wage, offered double my wage for me to stay. And I still said no. And it was a lot of money. I shouldn't have said no. But I was so unhappy. I was just like, I won't be happy. Double the money won't make me happy. So I left. And meanwhile, we were planning other projects. I talked in another video about a project we were planning called In My Car that Candice had written on her own. And we had plans for other films we were going to do, So I was kind of like, that was my master's film. That was never designed to make money either. And its budget would have been, again, about $1,000. Not a lot of money in 2007. And it turned out great. I mean, I'm proud of it. I've shown that one to a few people. And we had a screening for it, not a real premiere, but a screening. And it played pretty well, but it was just too long. It was ridiculous, like self-indulgent. Not a great movie. If I ever share it online, you'll know what I'm talking about because it's far too long. I probably need to re-edit it down, But I didn't know what I was doing yet. So then I got a job at an Apple reseller. We didn't have Apple in Australia at that time. We had resellers. So businesses would get a license to sell Apple products. So I worked in an Apple place. It's called Computers Now, and then we just sold Apple products. And that was great. I was around other dudes being creative. That was the first time in my life I'd worked somewhere where it was all creative people. Like at the cinema, there were some creative people, but some people it's just their part-time job, And that was great. I loved the boys working there. It was a really great job. I worked there for about 6 months. I had the best manager of my life in that job, Steph. He was a legend. And the dudes I worked with were great. Sarah was amazing. All those boys were amazing. Dewey, Coxie, great dudes. I had a great team. That's probably the best place I ever worked. Like you could make a TV show about working there. It was so fun. And then in the March of 2008, I'd proposed to Candy at the end of 2007, my wife, Candice, now my wife. I proposed to her far later than I should have. I should have asked her to marry me way sooner. Oh my God, I got very lucky. That's a story for another day. And we realized if we were going to get married, we should probably do it back where we grew up. So we kind of had to plan to leave Melbourne. So I left my job there, bought my first camera, moved back thinking, well, we got 6 months till the wedding, make a movie in that time because we'd shot a movie in 6 days, 3 movies back. But it didn't happen. Planning the wedding was too busy. And we got jobs. But the jobs ended up being a double-edged sword. They were great in one way because they paid really well. And for the first time in our lives, both of us were getting a great wage. So we had 2 wages, really good wage. I mean, we weren't rich or anything, but like it was a full-time wage. And so we had money. And that was when I bought, I showed in another video, the lens adapter because it was a few $1,000s. And I bought the tripod I'm shooting this on right now. So I've had this tripod since 2008. 2025 now, do the math on that, a long time, 17 years. So this tripod's held up. God, I highly recommend it. Miller DS20, I think it is. It's been amazing. I've used it on so many shoots. Anyway, we bought equipment. We had money. We had thousands of dollars. So we finally, for the first time, invested in our own gear. But that was because we moved home and we got these jobs, and the jobs paid for it. And meanwhile, we were doing a bit of writing, but we were mainly planning for the wedding. And by the time we got married, we had a bit of money. The wedding cost, I don't know, like $12,000 or something. So it was a very modest wedding, even for $2007. Or $2008. That was a pretty modest amount of money to spend on a wedding. We did a lot of it ourselves. We made our own wedding cake and did a lot of things ourselves. I loved our wedding. It was great. We had it in the local town hall where we'd shot a scene in our first feature film. It was great. Anyway, so we'd made some money from that, and we were married and we had our honeymoon and we had our jobs, and we kind of got to about Christmas that year. We got married in September, and we got to the Christmas and it was like, nah, we don't want to be in these jobs anymore. We want to make a film. And we'd done this before, like had a job and quit and had a job and quit. Like, you know, I had my cinema job, then we did Maryborough, the first film, and then quit, and then had a bit of time off, made One Night When the Stars Are Bright, and then it was like, oh, we got to get a job. So we moved to Melbourne. I enrolled in the master's, had free equipment, so I made a film then. You know, had dodgy part-time jobs, had the law firm job, had the Apple job. So we'd get a job, save enough money to make a film, then quit. Get a job, save enough money for a film, then quit. Get a job, save enough money for a film, then quit. And a lot of people watching this can probably relate to this, right? You get a temp job or you get a whatever job you can because you just want money to make a film because you can't make a film for free. You're bringing in other people, you got to at least feed them. And so, yeah, so we had these jobs back in our hometown. And it got to Christmas and we were like, oh, we're not staying in these jobs forever. Like it was a call center job. It wasn't a good job. It wasn't related to either of our degrees, but it was paying decent money because it was a real corporate level job. And so the money was nice, and we had a bit of savings at this time. We were like, it's not related to our work. So we made, we bought all the equipment to shoot something. So we wrote the least damnedest thing together. And I remember, oh my God, that was one of the best experiences of my life writing that. Like I remember I'd have like all-nighters because I was doing late night shifts in the call center and I'd just like work all night, you know, and then Candy would wake up and work all day. And we just, over the course of 2 or 3 weeks, we wrote the script for what would become the least damnedest thing. And again, had low stakes, didn't know what we were doing. But we had the money to make it because we'd had jobs. So we quit our jobs, both of us quit. And we had, you know, we had enough savings to pay rent for a while we made the film. And then we made that film. So again, we thought this will be the one, and we made it, and it did. It turned out just like I hoped it would. But we never did anything with it. I got interviewed by Chris Jones. It's probably still on YouTube from 1,000,000 years ago, 15 years ago. And the thing that did come from it though, because I shared it online, I put it on Vimeo. At that time, Vimeo had just allowed you to upload a feature film. You couldn't on YouTube. Otherwise, it would have been on YouTube since 2010. But back then, you couldn't upload films over an hour, so I couldn't share the feature film back then. And then we ended up getting distribution. So you can see the least damnedest thing on Amazon right now, but I'm going to try and get the rights back to it. We have a distributor in the UK and the US, not in Australia, ironically. So it plays on Amazon Prime, but I'm going to try and get the rights back for myself, and then I'll share it on YouTube for free for everybody, if I can. So it made us a little bit of money, but I'm talking maybe it's been on Amazon now for probably a decade, I don't know, for a long time, since I can't remember, for a long time. And I don't think we've made $100. Maybe we've made $200 off that film. Didn't sell any DVDs. We did have a premiere. I don't think we charged tickets for the premiere, but it was in the old Dendy Theatre on George Street in Brisbane, so it was a beautiful theatre. It was actually called the Tribal Theatre when we were there. Someone had acquired it, like a backpackers place had acquired it. But it was great. It was a great premiere. It kind of wrapped up that whole period of our lives, making those 5 films. It was like wrapped it up with a bow. And having shared it online, and we also made a Doritos spec spot. And off the back of those 2 things, I ended up getting employed. I'd been doing a bit of corporate work here and there, like freelance work, but I got employed at a place in Melbourne. So we moved back to Melbourne at the very start of 2010. And because I'd gone a few times in 2009. And then, yeah, I was employed. So I was, for the first time in my life, being paid full time. And it was not a great wage. I think it was like $50,000 a year. So not a great wage. Even in 2010, not a great wage, but it was exciting. I got to work on ads, I got to work on corporate videos, I got to actually learn. So I'd learned enough craft up to that point, but I didn't know what I thought I knew. So, I mean, I didn't know much. I didn't know much about being a professional. I hadn't been on real film sets, you know. I'd been on 1 or 2 other film sets where they were shooting on film, but nothing amazing. So this was a step up for me, and I was really lucky to get the job, and I really loved the job. I was mainly an editor in that job, and that was the thing I was most skilled at since uni. So I edited a bunch of TV ads and a bunch of corporate videos, and then off the back of that, I got to do a bit of production and work for some other clients, and I could talk about that another day, but I was earning $50,000 a year. And I did it for a while, and I mean, I was reasonably happy. I was slightly, I don't want to say I was unhappy, but like I was working on filming every day, but I wasn't making narrative films. You know, we were doing post-production on Damnedest for a bit of the time. If I remember correctly, the timeline's probably all out of whack. We released, at the start of 2010, about April, we released Damnedest, but I think I started in the job in February. So like maybe I'd shared a trailer or something. Or maybe it was that Doritos ad in 2009 that got me the job. Anyway, it's all a bit of a blur. So I was earning real money, but I was making corporate videos, TV ads. I was not making films, which is what I wanted to do. We released Damnedest and kind of crickets. I can't remember if we even put it in any film festivals. Maybe we did. Maybe we were just like, the next one will be better. The next one will be better, you know, because I always said I was going to do 10 features in 10 years. That's what I started out at. Like here, I'm doing 100 YouTube videos in 100 days. And I don't know if anyone's going to follow it, but the point is, by the 100th video, I'll have some idea about what my goal is with YouTube. I don't even know right now. I just want to build a community of people. Anyway, still going. So I was earning pretty good money, but we weren't especially happy. We weren't making films. We'd released Damnedest, and we just want to make another film. But because this was such a good job, I was like, do I quit this job? to make a film for 6 months, then get another job? Or what do we do? And then the decision got made for us because my brother got married and we went back for their wedding and me and Candice got pregnant, which was amazing because all I ever wanted with my life was babies more than even making films. I just wanted to have a family. And we'd been married in 2008, so mid-2010, beautiful. Pregnant with a baby, having it in 2011. And Candice was adamant she did not want to have the baby in Melbourne. She wanted to move back to closer to our family, so Brisbane or Maryborough where we grew up. And so we moved back to Brisbane. I had to start looking for jobs, and I got a job working for another place. I originally applied for a colorist job, but I was given the entire franchise. I got to run the business. And this was where things changed for me. And I owe the guy who ran that business a lot because he had a lot of faith in me, and he appreciated my work, and that's why I got the job. But I applied for a colorist job, and he's like, dude, look at your work. Like, you want to run our Brisbane franchise? Because we've been driving to Brisbane so much. It was based in the Gold Coast. And I was like, yeah, okay. So I took it. And so for the first time in my life, I learned how to run a business. And, we were getting, I think, 60% of every job I shot. And some days I was shooting, this is where we're actually getting to talk about money. So if you've got this far in the video, congratulations, I'm about to finally talk about some positives with money instead of losing money on films. Because I think, again, with Damnedest, I think our budget for that was $2,000 or $3,000 and maybe up to $5,000. Or maybe it was $500. I think it was $500. We bought a wedding dress, but we already had tape stock, we already had other stuff. So I think actually it was our cheapest film, Damnedest. So we spent $500, made nothing, again. And so I was making decent money up until I left that job, and I got so much experience. So it was like I was getting paid to learn and be amazing. But then when I went to this new job in Brisbane with Candice pregnant, and we worked together. She edited. She at this point she was an amazing editor. She'd edited everything, or edited on. She edited on Maryborough. We did that together. But then she edited One Night with the Stars Are Bright. She edited the parts of the Johnny movie we shot. She edited Coitzco's The Missing TV, and she edited the Lee Damnedest thing. I did post-production on the movie, so I did like color grading, dialogue editing, these sorts of things, but she edited. Because I directed, it just was beautiful to have another set of eyes, and we'd both written together usually, and so up to that point. And so she wrote One Night When the Stars Are Bright on her own, but the other movies, Maryborough, Johnny movie, Coitzco's The Missing TV, and maybe she didn't write a Johnny movie, and Lee Damnedest thing. Coit's, Lee Damnedest thing, and Maryborough, we wrote together. And so she was editing, and I was shooting. And we mainly were shooting real estate videos. We shot some corporates, and we shot a couple TV ads, I think, but mainly we were shooting real estate corporates. And it was paying a lot of money. Like, this is late 2010, early 2011. Like we were doing, I don't remember precisely, but it was about, maybe we're charging $375, let's just say, something around that time for a 30-minute video on a house. And we could do 8 of those in a day. So we were getting 60% of 8 times $375. And so for the first time in our lives, we felt rich. We weren't rich, but we felt rich. We felt like we were making a lot of money. Because if we did a 60-second video, that was, $400 or $500, 475 or 500 and something, I can't remember. If you did a 90, that was like, 1,000 because it was higher quality or whatever, 90-second video. And you'd spend more time in the house. So you'd spend more time, 30-minute shoot, 30-minute edit, 30-second video. That was the 30. Whereas then it'd go like 60-minute shoot, 60-second video, hour edit sort of thing. Like you spend more time. The 90s you'd spend a day on or whatever, so they paid more money. But we're mainly shooting 30-second and 60-second real estate videos, and it was paying us really great money. And for the first time in our lives, like we kind of had tons of money, and it was like, what are we going to do with this money? Like we'd never thought about buying a house. I mean, we would have eventually, but we were just in our, late 20s. I think we were 29 years old, and I was 29 when we had Lucy in April of 2011. So, so we were making good money, and then we had Lucy, and we kept going, and we were growing. And the goal was for me to eventually go independent with the business, and I was going to get 80% of it, but do a lot more of the administration stuff rather than the head office doing that. And we were doing it. It was great. We were looking like we were going to be buying a house because we had so much money in savings. We didn't know anything about tax, so we thought, oh, geez, like, better not spend any money until we paid tax. So we're just saving all this money, and we had client money coming in all the time. It was great. And meanwhile, we weren't talking about movies anymore, but we had been to a session with Chris Jones, a masterclass with Chris Jones. Google him if you don't know who he is. He wrote the Guerrilla Filmmakers Guide, and we met him at a film festival in Gympie in 2009. And we just finished Damnedest, so we showed him some Damnedest rush. He's like, you guys are beautiful. You guys are going to make it. You're awesome. like love the work, like, and he's like, write me a spec script. You got to do something with higher stakes. And he gave us an idea, or not, he gave us an idea. He gave us the name. He said, Killaroo, you're in Australia, make something about killer kangaroo like Jaws. So we wrote that. So I said to him, dude, we can do that in a week. He's like, all right. So we did it in a week. And I'm like, oh my God, like we can sell spec scripts. Like we're good at writing now. Like we could crank these things out. So we wrote that together in 7 days. Another idea we had for a high concept script, while we were driving back, was to do a musical. We'd always wanted to do a musical. It was called Let's Sing, There's Zombies Outside. It was this zombie musical. And so we had the idea for that, but we didn't write the script. We wrote Killaroo. Anyway, while I'd been working in Melbourne, and when Candy first found out she was pregnant, she wrote the script for Let's Sing, There's Zombies Outside. And I might put 2 cents an idea in here or there, but it was basically her writing the whole script. And we'd talk about it and stuff, but yeah, it's basically her idea. Anyway, so we, back in Brisbane, I don't think we'd had Lucy yet. I think Kenny was still pregnant. And we sent into Screen Queensland, or the funding body in the state that we live in, Queensland, Australia. And there was this initiative they were called the Writers' Room. And we got in. You had to send in a first draft of a script, and you got to have a year's worth of development. Now, this is a video for another day. But it gave us $40,000 as like, I guess a grant to develop a feature screenplay. And they did it with Let's Sing, There's Zombies Outside. So we said, okay, we've been writing movies a long time, we'll take this. And they're like, no, we're going to help you go to the next level, like Hollywood level. You'll sell this spec script, it's going to be worth $10 million. So we went from our budget, which was probably $100,000 for Let's Sing, There's Zombies Outside, to, by the time it was done, it would have needed at least $10 million to film. And then that was a weird black hole of budgets. It really needed to be written up to like, 50 million or 30 million or something. But those kind of films don't get made in Australia. So anyway, that's a whole nother story for another day. But the point is we got $40,000 selling that draft. Also, Candy's dad got sick. We found out he had cancer, and it was a gut punch, because we were earning money. We sold the script. Earning money, doing our own thing. Like she was editing every day. Like I'd film all day, come home, give her the rushes. She'd edit all night. I'd take the baby. It was just the best time. It was the best time. We had everything we ever wanted. We made damnedest it was great. We were going to get paid to develop this script for a year. We were earning money shooting films, like being paid for our skills. Like we were together. We were doing it on our own terms. Like everything was great. And then her dad got sick, and we just dropped everything instantly. I gave the business to another guy. The employees we had, we kind of let go. So they were all sad because they were earning thousands of dollars a week, and they all didn't have us anymore. And then we moved back to our hometown to be with Kenny's dad for a year. And we had no jobs, but we had tons of money in savings, and we had this $40,000. So we were driving back to Brisbane every 2 weeks for meetings, development meetings. And I'll talk about that another day, that project, because that's a whole video in itself. But we basically went from having a massive lot of savings, like house money, and we just drained it. Because we didn't have any other income. And so we just paid rent. We just rented a house there, and we paid our rent, we paid to live, and we had a baby. So, and we were doing our writing, but the money, we got down to having not much in our savings. Maybe we got down to having $10,000 in our savings or something. So we were kind of back to square one, where we'd been when we got married, when we had a bit of savings and didn't know what to do. So I started freelancing in our hometown, which only has 29,000 people in it. And then I branched out and did the next nearest town, Harvey Bay, and did some business there. And then I went to Bundaberg, which was an hour away. Then I went to friggin' Gladstone, which was like, I don't even know, a 5.5 hour drive or something. And I did some in Sunshine Coast, I did some in Brisbane. So I started independently, not as part of a bigger business, independently making TV ads and corporate videos. And that paid the bills. I grew decently, but these small towns, like, it was a race to the bottom for price. Like I couldn't charge what I was worth. I couldn't charge anything near what I was being billed out at, I think, $650 an hour at the place I was working in Melbourne. And then in Brisbane, I was probably worth, I don't know, at least $500 an hour. And so in Maryborough, I think I made my hourly rate $110 an hour because it was easy to calculate the GST, the $10. So $110 an hour. And so I was getting money, but like, I didn't know enough about business. And I learned about business, it was great. And I could talk about that on another video. This is just a candid talking about money. But yeah, I didn't know a lot about business. And so I factored in overheads a bit, and we had our accountant, and we were paying BAS, like business activity statements, which you have to pay if you earn over $75,000 a year. So we were doing okay, I guess. But it didn't grow because of where we were. And you got to remember, this was 2011. Like, ADSL2 Plus was only just a thing in Australia. So there wasn't, like fast internet, watching video, people did not have that habit yet. That only really started about 2015 or 16 here when Netflix became a thing and ADSL2 Plus was everywhere, and then the NBN came in, and by 2016 or 17, we got Disney Plus, I think in 2016 here, 2017, that's when like NBN came, fast internet, everybody watching video all the time. Mobile phones had got to multi-generations. So when we were filming, I was making money, but it wasn't the industry it is now. Like the industry has changed, and I'm not a part of that industry because since 2016 I was a teacher, 2015, late 2015. And so I was still talking about film, but I was talking more about films rather than corporate video and TV ads, which is where I was making my money. So I made those for a while. We had our second baby, Sonny, Orson, and he, and you know, by this time, Candice's dad had passed away, and her brother had moved back. He'd lived with us to be there with her dad, and her sister had moved back, but they'd both moved. He'd moved back to Brisbane. Her sister had moved back to Brisbane. So we were alone in a town with 29,000 people, no other creatives, and we had two little kids, and we just wanted friends. We wanted people to hang around. So we decided, even though I'd been freelancing, like, let's move back to Brisbane because we don't want to be alone, you know? So we moved back to Brisbane, and I was offered a job shooting TV ads at a business, at two different businesses, and one of them offered me great money, and I just didn't want to do it. You know, I don't know, I just got bad vibes. I guess after being a freelancer, going back to being an employee, I don't know, I didn't get great vibes. And so I said no to the job, which is probably, there's another time in my life I said no to a job actually, but that's a story for another day too. I said no to a game development job, a different one to the one in England, but that's a story for another day. Anyway, so I said no to this job. So we had no money, basically drained our savings. Freelance jobs here and there, but that was the lowest earning year of our life. My taxable income that year was like $24,000. It was like $24,990. It was so low, my accountant rang me and he said, hey man, is this right? I think you've missed a few things here. I'm like, nah man, that's right. Like, we had no money, you know? And we were renting, we could afford the rent, you know, the freelance work was paying enough, but it wasn't great. And actually we had made astronomical amounts of money. So I knew I could go back to that, but I think at that time, because I had two kids and we hadn't made a film in a while, we'd written the script and the script kind of stuff had happened with that, but that's a story for another day as well. I just wanted to make another film, but I spoke to my friend. I talked to him the other day who I shot the, you know, play of. I said, oh, what are you directing? Because we kind of talked every 6 months to a year, had beers and stuff. And he's like, nah, dude, I just did teaching. You should do it. It's the last year. It's, you know, you can train for it in 8 months, do a graduate diploma. I was like, ah. I was like, oh, I'll never do that. Hung up. And then I was like, actually, I did a big corporate job for a mining company or the training company who make videos for mining companies. So I made a lot of money off that early on. So we finally had some money. You know, and it's like, yeah, this will cover our rent for a year, you know, while I figure out what I'm going to do. Or maybe, you know, 6 months while I figure out what I'm going to do. But, yeah, I didn't know what to do. And so I thought, well, because this was towards the end of 2014. Sonny was born in 2014. And I thought, well, maybe I should just enroll in this course. And I'd always thought, oh, I'm good at teaching. I like being with kids. Like, I wanted kids so badly. I'm like, oh, just give this a go. And Candy was like, you'll never do that. You love filming, you know. Anyway, I did it, and I won't go into a lot of detail about it. I'll talk about teaching another day as well. But I did the teacher training, and that was a hard year too. Because I was doing full-time shooting, freelance, and full-time study, and I had to do my practice teaching classes. So I went away to do that, and that was hard. And I didn't earn any money. They've started paying teachers to do that now, but I didn't get paid for it. So we really struggled. You know, we had two kids, and you know, we were scraping by. I would have called us, like, we would have been defined as poor, like not like lower middle class, like we were poor, you know. And because we had been what I would call rich, you know, like making $5,000 a week, you know, like crazy good money for a while. Like, it was like, we knew we could make money again, but we didn't care about money. We just wanted to make movies. And this is a very long video. I don't know, you would have seen the time getting into it, so you knew what you were getting yourself into. And I don't know if this is helpful to anybody, but I'm just telling the story. Then I never have to tell it again. I can say, just go watch this video. But yeah, basically so I did that, and then I enrolled in teaching, and I did my first prac, and I liked it, and then I did my second prac, loved it. And I got to the end of the year, and I was to Kenny, like, I'd started in Brisbane getting more freelance work. So I was like, I could have just kept doing freelance. I said to Kenny, I might just try being a substitute teacher, you know, like just to get some money and just practice. Like, you know, when you're learning to be a driver, you have to be in the car with somebody else. And then when you get your license, you want to drive on your own, you know, because you're on your own. And it was like that. I just wanted to teach in a classroom without having to have someone with me. Like, I just wanted to give it a go and see how I'd go at it. So I did that for a while, and then I got involved in a media teaching organisation. So somebody was going on leave because they were having a baby, and you want to work in my work? I was like, yeah. So I did a contract, really enjoyed that. And then I got offered a permanent job, which I hated. And I did for like 2 weeks, and I was like, never again. But then another guy from the organisation offered me a job at his work. And I was like, okay. I ended up working there 7 years before we moved to the town we're in now. And it was interesting. I mean, it was just working a job. I liked it. I got to talk about film all day. I got to help kids learn how to make film, like teenagers learn how to make film. You know, I was working on film stuff. We made our web series. Like, it was a good time. It was pretty creative. It wasn't filmmaking, but it was close, and it felt closer than corporate videos and TV ads. It felt closer because I was talking about narrative films, even if I wasn't making them, and I was helping kids make them, even if I wasn't making them. And then I made the web series, which was what I wanted to be doing, and we won a bunch of awards for that. It did great, and again, that was just me completely on my own. So everything I'd learned up to that point got leverage. I mean, I'd had crews and stuff with me in Melbourne. Then I learned to have a smaller crew when I was in Brisbane. Then when I was freelancing, I was on my own. Every now and again, I bring in one extra helper, you know, but it's basically solo. And so then doing this web series, I did it solo, you know, like I had a little bit of help, but it was from the actors. It wasn't, you know, there was like one extra kid who crewed, he ended up acting, and he is an actor now, funnily enough. But yeah, he would come every now and again. But like really I had no help, you know, no real help on that web series. And the web series made us no money because COVID hit and we never got to go to anything. But Candice wrote that completely on her own, so we retained the rights to it, so we could always remake it. You wouldn't, but we could. And I made it as part of the school, you know, so I leveraged them to make that one production. I guess like doing a musical, but we did a web series. So it didn't make any money, but we got in film festivals. We got some recognition. Candy got an award for Best Screenwriter at a film festival, you know, so, and a lot of the actors got awards. So I took that as a directing award because the performers got good awards and none of them have ever acted before. So I know that was good directing, even though I didn't get a directing award myself. And I also got a teaching award that year for that project. So, you know, and I think I was pretty good at teaching, but then after that, and when COVID hit, you know, so talking about money, I was getting a wage, and my wage started pretty low. I think my teaching wage started on like $60,000 a year Australian, so that's like, I don't know, American, maybe $35,000 a year American, $40,000 a year American, 35,000, and it grew over time. And after I think 9 or 10 years, you get to the top wage, which I think at $100,000, $110,000, which is what I'll be earning now. I don't know exactly. I should know, but I don't know exactly what I'm earning right now after 10 years. But it's about $100,000, maybe 110,000 Australian. So that's about, I don't know, is that 60,000 US dollars, 50,000 US dollars? I don't know. Is ours quite half? I think it's probably about 60,000 US dollars. I don't know though. You'd have to Google it. And that's what I'm earning right now. And it's great. I mean, we had our third baby in 2017, and I paid for my family to live. We live reasonably comfortably. Candy switched to writing novels, you know, because it's hard doing films. And so she's written three novels. And we've talked about this on another video, so I won't go into that now, but maybe that'll make money, but it probably won't. But at this point, okay, here we are, 20 years in. I haven't done the maths on how much money I've earned. Did I earn more money in production than teaching? No, I think at this point, 10 years in teaching rather than 11 years in film, I think I've made more money from teaching, which is hilarious because it went 60,000, then it went 65,000, then 68,000, then 72,000, and you know, it kind of crept up each year. And in film, when we were working in productions, like we were doing pretty well. And when I was freelancing, I did okay. But I think, you know, I certainly never made $300,000-400,000 a year doing film stuff, you know. So like, I'd say that we earned sizably more money from teaching, I'd say. I don't know the maths. But 10 years into teaching, I think I've earned... See, in my early days of teaching, there was no way I'd earned anywhere near as much from teaching as I had from films. And I was still doing corporate videos. For those first few years of teaching, I was still doing shoots on the side to earn more money. To, I guess, compensate for that extra 30 grand that I wasn't getting, which I would get when I was a full-time teacher. And so here we are, you know, like 2019 I made the web series, 2010 we released Lee Stamper's Thing, and now it's 2025. And I don't know, am I allowed to call myself a filmmaker? This is why I'm making Confessions of a Failed Filmmaker, because I think, like, you know, I love movies and I identify as somebody who makes them, but I'm due to make another feature, like a new feature. And I made another web series with my kids, and the first episode of that got in a film festival earlier in the year, this year. And I met a girl who spent over $100,000, Mara. Maybe she'll be happy I'm talking about her film, Anda Muka. Spent 100 grand on it and hasn't made any money from it, hoping to get distribution. And I hope for her sake she does. And she's an incredible actor, so if you need an actress, look, put her in your film because she's great. But yeah, I saw her film when she bootstrapped herself. People are still doing it, you know, but that's the start of the journey rather than where I'm at this many years in. You know, decently experienced, written a lot of screenplays, made films, I've got experience, you know, and I just can't wait to start making things again. That's where I'm at now. My kids are middle years now, so they don't need me. They're not babies anymore. And yeah, I guess the question is just money. So the other thing I haven't talked about is online stuff, which I made a bit of money from. yeah, so I won't go crazy into this because it's not, but I helped some people with online marketing. I'd done multimedia in undergrad, so I knew about website stuff. So around 2010, 11, 12, there started to be this new thing of like online courses becoming a huge thing. Tim Ferriss, if you don't know who that is, Google him. He wrote a book in about 2007 called The 4 Hour Work Week. And it landed, by 2008, 9, it started landing. By 2010, it fully, you know, woven itself into the culture. And there were a lot of people making a lot of money off selling online courses, doing webinars, making money doing that. And I thought about it as something I could get into because I had the skills to do it and the knowledge to do it. But I never did. I was just like, no, I want to make films, and I'm earning money doing this, and that was enough. And we had our kids. I didn't do it. But I helped some other people. So I helped, some other people bootstrap their projects. I made a bit of money from that, but not. They were never really profitable. Usually, the hosting money would eat itself away. Whatever share of their sales I got was gone. So, but online sales is another thing that can be done. And it's something I'm considering for this channel. I mean, I don't know if I'll do it. I'll see. But I'm thinking about making courses. I know a lot of stuff. I've helped thousands of students. So maybe I can help people with making films, or maybe I can help people with making courses, or maybe I can help people with something. I don't know. I'll figure that out as I go. But that is moving forwards, talking about money. Like, I don't think I'll go back to doing corporate videos. I don't think I'll ever go back to that. I think there's a lot of money to be made in it, significantly more money than I make in teaching. But with teaching, you get sick leave and you get long service leave while I'm taking. But don't get me wrong, I'm pretty burnt out on teaching, to be honest. So I don't know what I'm going to do next. I guess at the end of my leave, I'll be doing something because I've either got to go back to teaching or I've got to do something else. But again, I'm not really thinking about that right now. I'm thinking about the films I'm going to make for the next 100 days while I'm still on leave. And then I'll figure out my life. But money, what would I do now if I was starting again? If you're a young filmmaker watching this, and again, thank you. I hope you're getting something out of it. I don't know why I'm saying thank you. I just stop watching if it's not interesting. But if I was starting now, and I've had this conversation with students many times, nowhere near this in depth, and I never talk about actual figures, and I haven't really talked that much about figures today. But if I was starting again now, I think I'd do what we did in the start. I'd have a casual job, I'd make a film. Casual job, make a film. Oh, that's what I was talking about. I talked about Mara making that film, but simultaneously, a couple of months ago, I talked about this in another video, I learned about folk filmmakers. There are dudes out there now, and they're all like we were when me and Candy started, in their mid-20s, making films for no money, working part-time jobs. And I think I would do it the same way if I was starting again now. I'd have a job and I'd shoot films on the side. But I'd want to have a job with a bit of flexibility. I think having a business, it's so consuming and I don't think it's great. Working in corporate videos and stuff, I think you end up going on this path and this is where you want to be. You want to be doing narrative, but you end up doing this. And this uses enough of your creativity that you don't have enough creativity left to do what you want to be doing. While I was working in corporate films, I never made any films, any narrative films. And so at least in teaching, I worked on ideas, and I did make the web series, which took 2 years, So I was doing some creative stuff. I had enough bandwidth to do some creative stuff. But yeah, I think I'd have a job and I'd do creative stuff like the folk filmmakers are doing. But those guys are in their mid-20s, so when they decide they want kids, when they decide they want a house, if they don't strike it rich, they've got to figure out a way to have a house and have kids, you've got to earn money somehow. And so I was lucky because I had an undergraduate degree I could earn money off. Then I had a master's degree with different skills I could earn money off. Then I got a graduate degree in teaching with different skills I could earn money off. So because I have a decent amount of skills, I've never really worried about being able to earn money. I've always thought I'll be able to get a job doing something. And when I was a kid, I worked in hospitality, like retail jobs, dodgy jobs. And so I could always get that kind of job. So I was never that worried, like there'll be a job, there'll be a way to earn money if I need it. But what's the best, most satisfying way? Like the best job I probably ever had was my job at the Apple reselling place because I love the guys I work with. I think who you work with really helps. But what you're doing is good. I mean, I always loved working in corporates, but I loved it enough that I didn't have the energy or was bothered doing narratives. So I don't know if this helps. I watched a video on YouTube the other day from a guy who's a director and he was in his 40s and he didn't have kids and he didn't have a wife. He said, oh, I wouldn't mind having a wife one day. Oh, I wouldn't mind being a dad. But it's like, dude, you're in your early 40s now. So I feel very lucky because I got to make films. I did it in my 20s, pivoted when I needed to, had kids. I didn't wait, I did what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. And it's worked out amazingly for me. I have no regrets about anything, to be honest. But I'm going to wrap up the video with this. I've been talking a long time. This is the longest video I've made, definitely. My relationship with money has always been weird because I've never cared about money. Never. But I've often in my life thought, oh, I'll make a lot of money off this. I thought it with my game company. And I thought it with our first feature. I thought it our second and our third and our fourth that I was going to, someone will see this and I'll get rich. I'll get to make an expensive film. When we had the business, I thought, oh my God, we're going to get rich in this. Then Candy's dad got sick and we dropped it. We left it. And I'd probably still be doing that, you know, but it's like, I don't know if I'd be happy. I'd probably be a YouTuber. You know, I would have been a YouTuber the last 10 years. But yeah, I feel like the thing here's my takeaway for me, talking out loud. And maybe this is a good thing for you too. I think my attitude towards money is going to change now. Just now. In the last couple of years, it's been shifting. Because, you know, we're paying off a house. So, like, I'm not a renter anymore. Like, I'm paying off a house. My kids are affording to live, and we get fast food once a week, you know, and the rest of the time we eat healthily every day. You know, we have game consoles and a computer, and, you know, like, I have what you would need, right? I'd call us lower middle class. So I'm certainly not really well off. You know, I'd love a house with a pool. I'd love, you know, a house with a study and a studio, but, you know, we chose to be creative with our lives, and so we made sacrifices. We chose to have Candy stay home with our kids. I mean, I love my kids. Oh my God, I could just have a whole YouTube channel talking about how great kids and being a parent is, and being a husband is, you know. But so getting to do those things has been amazing. It's been probably the highlight of my life. Getting to make the movies I've made, the feature films I've made, and have my wife and my kids, amazing. It's all I need. I'm content. I love life. Could I improve? Yes. My relationship to money probably needs to change, and I've been reading books about it. And there are other people who I find really inspiring, guys like Marcus Rothkranz. Love Marcus Rothkranz. He's probably my favorite YouTuber, I think. Yeah, I'll have to make a video just for him one day. But, you know, talking about prosperity, and I guess I've always had a scarcity mindset. My family growing up was poor, and Candice's family growing up was poor, and we got told, like, work hard, get a good job, you'll earn money, you know, and we kind of drank the Kool-Aid. We did have degrees, we got jobs, but honestly, I look at a lot of my friends who stayed in jobs or pivoted jobs, and they're not happy either. Whereas I at least got to make films and I got to have my family. So I'm not sad, I have no regrets, but I've never thought money will come to me. I'll get rich, you know, like when we were, that time where we had a good amount of money. I never thought, oh, I'll get that again. I was like, oh, there went that, you know, where I probably could have thought, I could do that again. And I think that's where I'm at here. That's what I'm doing with these videos. Not thinking I'm going to make $1 million or anything, but I'm just open to the possibilities. I want to build a community. I want to start making films that people see. But, you know, maybe I'll make some online courses. Maybe I'll do it for myself rather than helping others, because I always help others. So I feel, and this is even the thing with friends, like that's why I'm excited about building a community of people who do things, who want to learn about this sort of stuff, because that's not who I have in my life now, you know, and I want to just accept that money might come to me for things that you know, I don't know, my money mindset needs to change. And maybe if you watch this video this long, yours does too, because if you can relate to anything I said, you're making money, you're making movies, making no money. You know, you've earned money somehow, or you're not earning enough money, or you wish you could get a better job, or you don't know if you should go to uni or not. All these things I can talk about another day. But at the end of the day, I think like money was never a priority for me, but it was also never, I think I consciously avoided money. Does that make sense? I think my whole life I've avoided money. And even when we had a lot, we just left it in the bank because we were scared, like, this can't be real. We can't really be getting this money, right? And then we sold the script as well. We had the most money we ever had, and we got the script money, you know, like, and so, touch my mic. I think, yeah, I'm gonna shift my attitude towards money. But I've survived, and I know I will survive, but I don't want to survive, I want to thrive. And that's how I'm gonna end this video. I think the universe will help you, but I think you've got to be open to it. And I think money is the one thing in my life that I've never been open to. I've never gone out of my way to pursue money. I've thought, oh, it might come to me. Or, oh, we probably won't sell it. You know, I've always been a bit negative towards it. Like, oh, you know, oh, this movie's not good. Why would anyone buy this? So I just wouldn't even sell it. Oh, nobody wants to see this, so I'd never show it. And I think these videos for me are me putting myself out there, because I've never thought there was any real motivation to do it, any good reason to do it. So I think same thing with money. I'm not going to push it away anymore. I'm going to be open to the fact that I might make money somehow. I might be able to help people and them give me money for the things I help them with. And I think it's the same for you. I think, you know, I'm sure you have some sort of skills that you can make money from. I'm sure if you are open to it, the universe will give you what you need. I've always been given what I needed, but I'm ready to thrive rather than just survive. And that's where I'm looking at moving forward. So this was a long video, and I don't know what the hell I'm going to call it, because I don't know if it was about money, if it was about the journey of my creativity. I don't know. It was an interesting video. I'll give it a name later and I'll rewatch it, but I hope it helped. Please, if you've watched this far, please write a comment and tell me what you got from it, or what you thought of it, or what else you'd like to hear about, or if you think it was a complete waste of time. because I don't know if it was good or not. But yeah, I'm going to call it at this. Yeah, if you watch this long, I really want to be, I want, I mean, I know this is a completely parasocial relationship because we're not together, but I'm interested to hear what you think. But I definitely think if it's hard for you now, I've had times where it was hard. That year where we earned barely enough money to live, I don't know how we even paid our rent and ate food. But we did it and we got through it, and we're doing okay right now. But I want to thrive. I doing okay. I could do okay for the next 30 years, but I don't want to. I want to thrive. And I think just saying I want it might make it more likely to happen, maybe. I don't know. You tell me. Maybe you know more about this stuff than me. I've looked into the whole manifesting thing, not much, but maybe I'll read more about that too. Maybe I'll manifest myself a $1 million house. I don't know. But yeah, I'm definitely going to try to change my mindset around money. Consciously in the background, I'll be talking about filmmaking stuff, but just know if you've watched this video that it's on my mind. It's on my mind. And yeah, I hope for you that it's on your mind too. Go on the journey together. Write me a comment. If you haven't already subscribed, this is my 8th video, so I'm doing 100. You got 92 to go, so I'd love if you'd subscribe. And if you like the video, give it a like. If you don't, give it a dislike, because I'll see the stats on the dislikes, so it'd be good to know if people think I'm wasting their time. Anyway, it was a long talk. It was basically a podcast episode long. I have no idea how long it's been, but I'm guessing it's been longer than I expected it to be. So that's the video for today. Thank you. I hope I helped. I don't know if I helped, but all these things are going to work together to build a story that will also a lot of this will feed into my Confessions of a Failed Filmmaker feature-length documentary. So look out for that at the end of 100 days' time. Anyway, thanks everyone. I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Ooh, I'm a bit stiff from sitting down so long. All right.